Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, it's Jesse with the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things ready through a common sense lens. And man, I'll tell you what, we've heard a lot of horror stories from the inside of working for Disney out there, especially specifically Marvel, right? We've heard the horror stories from former VFX employees. We've heard some of the leaked stuff come out of the former Pixar employees when they talk to IGN and all of this other kind of crazy stuff out there. And one of the guys out there that's been trumpeting this stuff for quite a while is Beau DeMayo. Beau DeMayo is the guy that was responsible for X-Men 97, right? The reboot, the kind of continuation of the original animated series from back in the day that we all knew and loved. And although there were some changes made that kind of gave me a real objectionable situation of the whole thing, a lot of the fans absolutely loved the entire series. And Beau DeMayo was one of those guys that out there that was really championing sticking to the source material out there. He was saying all of the right things, and despite all of his own personal stuff and everything else out there, this was a guy that seemed to me come off as 100% one of us. He was a fan of Marvel. This was a comic book guy. He knew these stories. He was one of us. He understood this kind of stuff and was fighting to make sure that the project that he was working on was a proper representation of what we all had known and loved. Well, boys and girls, as a lot of people might have heard the rumors around Marvel for a long time out there, despite Kevin Feige talking about how much of a fan of the comic he is, well, things behind the scenes are very, very different out there, boys and girls. And Beau DeMayo, since his firing from Disney Marvel after giving them the most successful animated series that they have had in the entirety of Disney Marvel, especially on Disney Plus out there, of course, he is now letting the cat out of the bag. And he had some very harsh words from the current Disney disaster, Fantastic Four, who is flopping at the box office right now. And once again, letting loose on all of this has caused Beau DeMayo to expose the inner workings of Marvel out there and how much of a toxic work environment truly it being is under the Kevin Feige regime. And ladies and gentlemen, it is a beautiful thing to see, and I absolutely love every minute of it because it tells you more of exactly why, despite all of the fans asking for proper adaptations of these comic book stories that we have all known and loved, giving us this proper representation of these characters out there. Well, it turns out, boys and girls, Kevin Feige isn't the only villain inside of Disney Marvel, making sure that the fans do not get what they want. And when you see all of this exposed, when you see all of this broken down, it is going to be absolutely insane. And a lot of people are talking about this because That Part Places wrote an article over here. Former Marvel writer exposes toxic Kevin Feige creative meetings in explosive X thread. Now, one of the things I like about That Part Place is they've got some of the follow-up comments and some of the other questions that Beau had responded to out there in this article. But of course, our dear sweet friend Matt McGloin over at Cosmic Book News goes over this entire thing with this thread. But boys and girls, I saw this over the weekend firsthand, and man, oh man, do we have it bookmarked and do we have some thoughts on this whole thing out there, as well, of course, as some of the responses and some of the other dirty laundry that he has dished out there about the absolutely toxic work environment that clearly is existing inside of Disney Marvel out there, and is exactly why the Marvel fans are not getting the proper representation of all of their characters out there that we've all known and loved. I mean, the Marvels, do we need to bring up the Eternals again, boys and girls, and it's absolute disrespect to Jack Kirby? No, I didn't think so, but man, oh man, the disrespect for the original creatives that Beau DeMayo exposes inside of Marvel and the way they are treated will tell you everything about not only why Deadpool's creator, Rob Liefeld, is extremely upset with the entire company, but once again, why the fans have not gotten exact representations and honestly good stories from quite a while from inside of Disney Marvel. So we're going to check out these articles. We're going to jump over to Beau's thread as well and get into all of the juicy details of exactly how much of a toxic work environment he is exposing over there under the Kevin Feige regime at Marvel. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing. We just crossed 2,100. We're sailing our way towards 22. I think we're sitting at like 2,135, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. Let me know what you think about this. Does it surprise you at all what Beau is exposing? Does this toxic work environment surprise you at all, considering what's been going on, considering what Marvel has been producing as far as television shows and box office disasters with stories that make absolutely no sense about characters that the fans simply don't care about? Or do you think this is just an upset ex-employee out there who's just spewing a bunch of nonsense because he's mad that he no longer has a job over there at Marvel? Let us know what you think about all that in the comment section down below, because as always, all opinions are welcome in the comment section down below. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, please check out the links in the description as well. All right, boys and girls, just to give a nice little intro, we'll jump over to here to cosmicbook.news and our dear sweet Matt McGloin before jumping right into the thread from Beau himself. X-Men 97 creator rips Marvel. Horrible meetings and no respect for comics. Well, color us shocked there, boys and girls. Former X-Men 97 showrunner Beau DeMayo is doubling down on his criticisms of Marvel, this time taking aim at the way Marvel Studios runs its creative meetings and how the process allegedly kills good ideas before they make it to screen. DeMayo recently exposed Marvel Animation for not being fans of comics and more. And if you guys missed our last video on that expose and all the dirty laundry, I mean, literally the people that run animation out there mock and ridicule fans of the comics, and anybody that's trying to say they're trying to make it like the comics or stick source to the source material are literally laughed out of the room, made fun of, and honestly harassed. Like, they literally make fun of them and call them fanboys. And like, I wear the fanboy title proudly. I've said it a million times around here. I'm a DC fanboy, right? Which is why I keep being like the roo-rah, like let's be good with James Gunn in the DC universe, yay! Even though Superman lost money at the box office. But it's one of them situations where like, I understand the fanboy label and I'm totally okay with this, but it was used as a derogatory term inside of a company who literally owns the IPs that you could say arguably created the fanboy culture, boys and girls. But guess what? As usual, they hate their own source material. Who hates it the most? Well, we'll get into that because Beau DeMayo is going to expose all of that, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be great. In a new Twitter X thread, DeMayo contrasts Marvel with DC, explaining why he hasn't been critical of James Gunn's Superman. And let's just go ahead and jump right into how the sausage is made, boys and girls. Beau posts out here on Twitter. Says, to those asking why I'm not so hard on Superman, the answer is I've never worked with Gunn or DC. Like Max Shackham and the writers of Fantastic Four, I've sat in quote-unquote creative meetings at Marvel Studios. They're horrible. You basically sit in a room with Kevin Feige and Lou D'Abbasito and try to pitch your movie while also realizing that Kevin just wants you to dictate his rushed thoughts. Oh, wow. Color us shocked there. You're telling me Kevin Feige is the psychopath who controls everything and won't let anything out of his hand, and is the guy who has openly admitted he watches every Marvel product 6 or 7 times and requires changes because he's simply never happy? That guy? Oh, wow. He doesn't actually trust his directors and his writers to do their jobs. Color me shocked there. I wonder if it's because of all the diversity, inclusion, and equity people that he hired, or maybe Kevin Feige just hired a bunch of yes people that actually have no talent in any way, shape, or form. Either way, it works out to be the exact same process here, boys and girls, and Beau DeMayo is exposing all of that. And I, for one, am here for every single juicy detail, because this is candy, Piter. This is absolute candy. This is exposing every nasty thing behind the scenes that fans have suspected of Marvel for quite a while. And this is Beau telling you his first-hand experience. This isn't hearsay. This isn't rumor mill. This is Beau giving you eyewitness testimony of exactly what he experienced inside of the absolutely insane Kevin Feige regime of Marvel, boys and girls. Victoria used to be in these, but Kevin and Lou had so mistreated her that in one of my Blade meetings, she just showed up with sugar cookies she'd baked to help improve morale. That's how poorly Kevin Feige and Lou D'Esposito treat their employees. Boy, doesn't sound exactly like the happiest place on earth after all, now does it, boys and girls? You're even told not to try to pitch the ideas from the comics, because Lou isn't a big comic guy and it'll turn him off. Yes, boys and girls, any of you out there that were a fan of the true Infinity Saga out there, the Warlock Saga out there that happened with the Infinity Gems and the Infinity Gauntlet from the actual comic books, which is an excellent story. It's an incredible arc, and if you haven't seen it, go and read it. You'll understand why a lot of fans are upset with what they did with the Infinity Saga, because it completely and totally left out Adam Warlock, because that he was a main integral character in all of that. But of course, we can't adapt that properly because old Louis over there doesn't like it. It'll turn Louis off. Who is Louis? Well, boys and girls, this is Louis D'Esposito. Louis D'Esposito is an American filmmaker, producer, and a director who is known for executive producing every Marvel Cinematic Universe film with the exception of 2008's The Incredible Hulk. So if you want to know why Civil War wasn't adapted properly, if you want to know why the Infinity Gauntlet wasn't adapted properly, this man right here is the one responsible for it. Because Louis doesn't like the comic books. They turn him off. Well, you know, Louis, what really turns off comic book fans is the abominations like the Eternals and Captain Marvel and the Marvels and Captain America Brave New World that you put out there. Abominations and absolute bastardizations of the comic book stories that, Louis, you couldn't hold the jock strap of Stan Lee or any of the rest of those guys out there, especially Ditko and I don't know, the legendary Jack Kirby. You know what, Louis? After the abominations you've been responsible for, I'll go as far as to say you aren't worthy of sniffing the jock strap of Jack Kirby, let alone be responsible for the abominations, all because you don't like the comic books. Screw you, Louis. And Kevin Feige, you're clearly a weak-willed for the fact that you know what? You're a weak. I've been trying to be a better Christian. I've been trying not to cuss in my videos, but clearly Kevin Feige, who allegedly is a fan of the comic books, who sneaks comic books to people on sets when the directors don't actually want them do it. Well, guess what? You ain't that much of a nerd, because clearly you're just a bitch who won't stand up for the comic books or the fans. Lord forgive me, but that's exactly what Kevin Feige is, because apparently Louis the one that actually makes all the decisions. I thought Kevin Feige was the head of Marvel Studios. Clearly, that's not the case, boys and girls. But Beau goes on. Beau goes on out there as well. You sit and you talk about craft and story and characters, only to have Kevin and Lou say, yeah, well, all we need to do is make sure it's fun, and etc. and etc. Wow. You wonder why all your Marvel movies have become cookie-cutter, generic, rip-off abomination versions of Guardians of the Galaxy? Well, there you go, boys and girls. Tell me, is Beau DeMayo just an angry, fired employee, or does everything he say line up with the productions that we have seen coming out of Marvel post-Endgame, boys and girls? Methinks Beau might be right after all. There's no spark. There's no vision. Wow, that lines up with exactly what we heard about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness from Elizabeth Olsen. What was it that she was quoted in saying? She stopped even bother reading the scripts they gave her because the time she got to set, it would have completely and totally changed. Oh, what was it? We found out that almost every single Marvel production goes in. James Gunn decided to expose that for us with his little snide remark talking trash against Marvel, but being so eloquent about it by saying no DC project will start without a finished script. How many reports have we heard? How many people how many executives of Marvel projects have told us? What was it? There was one of the streaming service movies. I can't remember which one it was at this point, but they literally said the end of their show wasn't even figured out or edited together by the time the first episode premiered. They were still figuring out the end of the show as it was premiering on Disney Plus. Yeah. Marvel is a slaughterhouse factory where you watch fresh meat get spoiled as it slowly makes its way through the assembly gears of mediocre thinking and this weird hatred for their own product. Oh, and their fans, how they're just those stupid fans. Oh, they're just its and phobes because they made your favorite character gay. Or they decided to race swap your other favorite character out there. Or to turn it into a women power character instead of actually giving you a proper representation of the She-Hulk character that we've all known and loved. Yeah, those kind of things out there. Yeah, methinks Marvel, people inside of Marvel, Louis in particular, might hate their own product. Because I'm sure he's an artist, right? He's above comic book heroes. But hey, guess what, Louis? What's been paying your bills for the last couple of decades? That built-in audience that Bob Iger's really good at buying and then destroying? Yeah. This is why Robert Liefeld, a.k.a. the creator of Deadpool, isn't just some bitter old man. Talking about comic book writers is met with open contempt. I had to fight to get the Lualds involved in X-Men 97. Those are the original creative geniuses behind the series and are in the 90s that we all loved, that introduced a lot of us to the X-Men characters. And even then, the dismissive news with which Dana Vasquez Alberta spoke about them, basically telling me the OG creators were meant to be seen, not heard, to appease the fans. That's right, boys and girls. As far as Marvel's executives are concerned, you're just a bunch of stupid fanboy nerds and geeks who will just consume whatever they want, and they don't even respect the people you love that created the characters that have made them a billion-dollar industry. That's right, creators are to be seen and not heard. Can you imagine how much Common Nerd would scream right now if Jack Kirby was still alive and they treated him like that with that abomination that they put out that was the Eternals? I'd imagine Jack Kirby would have never allowed that movie to get made, for one. But let's just say he's old and senile. He started getting treated like Stan Lee did his last few years out there, allegedly. Right? I would be screaming I would lose my voice for a week if I heard that they had treated Jack Kirby or Ditko or any of the rest of those legends, those titans that gave us the golden and the Sylvan age of comic books out there, who made Spider-Man who he was, who made Fantastic Four who he was, who made Captain America who he was, who made the X-Men who they are. You would see a full-on revolt. It's a miracle they're not popping out of their graves and we're seeing zombies march on Marvel and Disney itself. But at this point, the best part is we're all getting the last laugh. They have lost tens of billions of dollars on this new modern audience that they've been chasing the last few years while completely and totally ignoring their fans. Why? Because they hate you. They think they're better than you. They think you're a bunch of losers. And that's why they don't respect the creators behind your favorite IPs. And Beau DeMayo is exposing all of that right here. I even remember wanting to talk to Chris Claremont and being shut down, or wanting to Joe Medini to do posters, just as I was scolded for being too friendly to the fans or coming off too much as one. That's right. Fanboy is a very naughty word inside of Marvel. He said, I even wanted to co-write an episode with the original creators of the X-Men series, and that was Dana's response. The original creators are meant to be seen and not heard, just to shut all you fanboys up so you'll think they're actually being respectful to your characters and you'll trust them because the original creators are part of the marketing. How could we possibly screw it up? You should trust us because we brought out the original creators for the red carpet to show around like some kind of show pony. Boy, I wonder why Rob Liefeld was so upset about what they did with Deadpool. Or the way they treated him in regards to Deadpool, I should say. This was in a meeting when I was pitching what we could use Blade as a chance to pick up the dangling threads for Doctor Strange when it came to Wanda and the Darkhold. Wow, a creative out there actually trying to fix some of your plot holes and actually tie things together? Strange concept. I don't know, it sounds like me, Beau DeMayo, might be better qualified for Kevin Feige jobs than he is, and certainly better qualified than Lou is. We could use Varney and Darkhold Cultist. One of my drafts opened with Deacon Frost tricking some British explorers to trek up a mountain, Wudanga, where he does blood magic to reveal the vampire spell used by Varney and his followers during the days of Cult. It started out tying some of these threads together. I even had the same monsters from Doctor Strange to show up to kill the explorers before Deacon reveals he's a vampire and kills them. Up until that point, he'd been covered against the cold and daylight. This was set before Doctor Strange 2, so a lot of stuff played ironically, while also having Frost give us more details about Chthon, who was only glimpsed in Doctor Strange 2. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that sounds like a wonderful story and is very accurate to the source material out there as well. But of course, you can't have that over at Kevin Feige and Louis' Disney Marvel, now can you? To Kevin's credit, he liked the idea, as well as my pitch that magic is the blade what snakes are to Indiana Jones. He hates magic, but then Lou felt it was too comic book. That's right. Old Louie boy over there said it was too comic book. While Mahershala bumped on there being magic in the film tonally, which, all right, whatever. He wants it more grounded. Fine. And then I watched as them and Nate Moore picked it apart and were off to a new draft. It's a broken machine, and so I can see where Matt and his team probably had great ideas, only for Marvel's arrogance to destroy them. And we know that there was massive amounts of reshoots with Fantastic Four. That's why a lot of the industry insiders are saying more than likely the actual budget is more like $300 to $350 million, and not the $200 million that all the Hollywood Reporter and Variety shill access media groups out there are actually reporting. But of course, Beau wasn't done there, right? As that Park Place likes to bring up over here as well, there was even more questions that people were asking and even more stuff, because Nisho asked over here, says, hey, Beau, what changed with Marvel and Feige when it came to Marvel before Endgame and after? I thought he respected comics, and that's why he always got connections and Easter eggs. But the way you're describing him post-Endgame content seems like he's mentally in the system too. Oh, it turns out he's actually part of the cult as well. Well, Beau here goes to explain this. Look, I think Kevin and Marvel used to trust their directors and writers to do their jobs, which is to take our love of the IP and apply our decades worth of filmmaking craft to make them sing on a screen. And honestly, we brought it up earlier, but Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness out there, yeah, you guys remember that director? Does it feel like one of his movies, or does it feel like another Marvel product spit out of the giant machine? You guys tell me in the comment section down below. But success gets to folks, and soon you start getting high off your own supply. Appeasing actors and protecting your job becomes more important than the characters. Hi, Kevin Feige. Yes, he's talking about you. And as one Marvel employee told me, they make it clear that every good thought came from Kevin. He is the celebrity. Oh, boys and girls, how many times have we talked about narcissism? How many times have we talked about ego and pride when it comes to these Hollywood elites, these Hollywood studio heads, whether it be Kathleen Kennedy, Bob Iger, or Kevin Feige, or any of the rest of them? Name your favorite franchise out there. The Alex Kurtzmans, if we want to bring into our Star Trek stuff out there. How many times have we seen the case? Kathleen Kennedy wants to rewrite Star Wars in her own image, wants to turn it into a girl's brand. Now turn that into a $30 billion disastrous dumpster fire that's it they're in the hole for, right? Kevin Feige believed he was the key to all of the success of Marvel. He was the face of everything. All of the marketing told him so. All the newspapers told him so. All the Hollywood trade magazines told him so. And guess what? He got high on his own supply. And now all the ideas have to come from Kevin Feige, and everybody else's ideas get thrown out the window. And God forbid you pitch anything directly from the comic books, because Lou's going to give you the big finger and tell you to beat rocks and call you a fanboy. Yeah, much like they did with Beau DeMayo. Wow. You wonder why the Marvel products over the last few years have just been so crappy. It's almost like Kevin Feige wasn't really a creative at all. He was just good at hiring much smarter than him people, and now he doesn't trust them anymore because he's got high on his own supply. This is why X-Men 97 was such a threat to them. Brad greenlit it on the sky, and then on the sly, and then no one took me seriously. Marvel Studios took one look at me and my Instagram and said, he's some brown gay muscle kid who's more style than substance. He'll make something cute. And that's right. I cannot scroll through Beau DeMayo's Instagram, okay? He makes his sexuality very apparent, and he has no problem not showing off what the good Lord gave him to everyone out there who's willing to follow his Instagram. And you know what? Whatever. I don't care. Not something I want to see, and certainly not something that I would expose anyone in my family to. But at the end of the day, you know what, Beau? You do you. Because it's like some other people have said out there in the past, right? I can disagree with you on 99% of the issues. I cannot agree with your lifestyle. I cannot agree with what you do in the privacy of your own bedroom. But if you are willing to agree with me on this one thing, and you are willing to go up against the devil and all the forces of evil that he has put out there into the world with me and stand shoulder to shoulder with me, fine. I will stand next to you, Beau DeMayo, until we defeat this dragon. And when this dragon's done, maybe we'll go back to arguing over all of the rest of those things. Or maybe we'll just end up deciding that it's better to agree to disagree. You know, that strange concept that we all used to embody in the 90s. Right? That strange concept that they're to agree to disagree and just end up enjoying our love and our friendship over the Marvel comics that we have all known and loved for generations. But that's okay, because guess what? At the end of the day, the dragon to defeat out here is Marvel, Kevin Feige, and clearly Louis over there too. Because the kind of disrespect for the fanboy that Beau DeMayo actually is, boy, did Marvel not see that coming. They thought he was just another one of their diversity hires. Did he show them, gave them the best Marvel animated project that they've seen in decades, and put to shame every other showrunner out there. By the way, how's that Spider-Man garbage they're putting out over there? Oh, and then I did more than that. I did without Kevin or Lou or their studio. I did it with a team of amazing artists and animators who rallied outside of the system to make something for the fans, even as folks like Dana V. Everett made our lives hell. And it's one of them situations where I know hardcore anti-current Kevin Feige Disney Marvel fans out there. I mean, the people out there that will bash every single little critique, every little thing that you've got wrong. Fanboys to the fanboys out there when it comes to these properties out there. And you know what? They were singing praises to the high heavens on every mountaintop they could find that said, yes, Beau did deliver on his promise to give something that was not only respectful, but a straight continuation and not a reboot of the X-Men 97 series out there, the X-Men animated series that we all knew and loved from the 90s. And that right there, boys and girls, was something that Marvel did not respect, did not expect, and it got him fired for it, boys and girls. It absolutely got him fired for it. I remember begging Dana to give the crew a hiatus for season 3, and that a lot of folks were unhappy. Her response, and I quote, "We'll just get new blood. It'll be good for the show." That's right, boys and girls. God forbid you stick with the crew that's making something successful. No, that's right. According to Disney Marvel, if you're a creative, you're nothing more than a cog in the machine that can be replaced and changed at any time out there. Wow. I wonder if working for Marvel is a toxic work environment or not. Boy, don't you Disney Marvel employees really feel valued out there? This gets at Marvel's core issue. They started to see their artists as disposable and replaceable because all Marvel needed was Kevin's brilliance. That turned out to not be the case, and X-Men 97 was direct proof of that. I remember speaking to an exec after the show premiere and asking if Kevin was happy with it being such a hit. Their response, after a long pause, he'd be happier if it wasn't being used as a referendum on what was broken at the studio. That's right. Every Marvel fan went out there and went, "This is what we need. Give us this. This is what we've been begging for, and this is why we love it." Oh, but of course, Kevin's ego can't possibly handle that. And Louis doesn't like things that are comic book accurate. So that simply can't be allowed. Explain to me why Beau DeMayo was actually fired again. He also worked on X2 and doesn't like that folks are saying it's better than the Fox movies. I know, strange concepts. Stick to the source material, give costumes that are accurate to the comics, and fans are actually happy. Oh, Kevin Feige can't have that. Once again, jealousy, ego, and pride got in the way of you having a good X-Men 97 season 2, because Beau has now been fired and everything that he worked on, which is essentially completely and totally done with season 2, has all gotten rewritten by Kevin Feige and Louis' yes men. Won't that be fun for season 2, boys and girls? Aren't you so glad you invested all of your precious time in season 1 now? This should tell you all you need to know. It also explains why Kevin and Lou didn't even bother to show up at the red carpet premiere of the show. That's right, boys and girls. Ego and narcissism once again show their ugly heads. And Beau DeMayo exposes clearly all of the problems inside of Disney Marvel. And it's what all of the fans have expected and suspected for a very long time. They hate their own product. And most of all, they hate the fans. And they especially hate fans that they accidentally hire because they thought they'd be nothing more than a diversity hire. And boy, did they get a surprise with old Beau over there, didn't they? Boy, was that a shocking turn of events, because it turns out he was one of us. He was a hardcore nerd. He was a hardcore geek. He was that evil fanboy that Disney Marvel clearly despises and hates. And guess what? He's exposing all of that. Not only does Beau DeMayo expose himself on Instagram all of the time, he also is exposing Disney Marvel. And though I might not agree with his lifestyle, I might not ever invite him over to a barbecue in case he decides to take his pants off based on his Instagram out there. But at the end of the day, I'll absolutely go to a comic book store with this guy in a heartbeat, because he is one of us. And he is the only reason X-Men 97 made the fans as happy as what they did, as far as happy as what they were. It's the only reason it was as good as what it is. And that right there was a threat to Kevin Feige and Louis over there, and what their current regime and the abominations that they have created and how bad it is over there. And Fantastic Four's flop is just the latest example of that. Like we have suspected, and what Beau DeMayo confirms for us, Kevin Feige and the rest of the executives over there at Disney Marvel do not trust the people they hire. Kevin Feige, according to them, is the only brilliant mind, and he is responsible for all of the successes that Disney Marvel has had, despite far greater people behind the scenes that have been producing, directing, and writing these projects. No. It's not the Russo brothers that were responsible for any of those successes. No. It's not even the rest of those writers out there that were responsible for any of those successes. No, it wasn't Jon Favreau who was responsible for any of that success. No, ladies and gentlemen, it was all Kevin Feige. Even though Kevin Feige, Bob Iger, and Marvel have now had to crawl on hands and knees with a giant truckload of cash to bring the Russos and Robert Downey Jr. back, because that was the last time Kevin Feige had a hit, because it never was Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige might be a fanboy, but he clearly doesn't have a spine to stand up to Louis, and Louis wears the pants in the relationship. And that's why everything that Beau DeMayo says lines up logically with exactly everything we've seen and all of the products that have been produced with Disney Marvel post-Endgame. And ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, that's Kevin Feige's fault. He didn't listen to the fans. He listened to Louis, who hates comic books, and that's Bob Iger's fault for hiring these people and putting them in charge. And guess what? We have seen what happens when Kevin Feige's ego runs the roost over at Disney Marvel. It's nothing more than a bunch of activist nonsense. And even if all the activists are gone, you now have stories that flop and make no sense. Like Captain America, Brave New World, of course, the Thunderbolts, and now Fantastic Four, the flop. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, Beau DeMayo is absolutely right. Marvel is a toxic work environment to work for that simply crushes all of the fans out there wanting to see actual comic book accurate movies and television shows. And at the end of the day, until Kevin Feige and Louis are fired and gone, nothing will change. Beau DeMayo is right. Marvel is a very toxic place to work for. They clearly hate their fans and all of their source material. And at the end of the day, it's all Kevin Feige's fault. You will not be remembered as a hero. You will be remembered as the guy who oversaw the once great Marvel and its fall into absolute obscurity and just one flop after another. After all, Kevin Feige, you danced with the devil and now you've gotten burned. Beau DeMayo is just the latest to expose you.